You're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
And today we're both going to be in the video. We're going to be showing you how these hoops go together. Actually, we're going to be taking them apart. So hang in there and we'll get going.
Anybody who's been following us this summer has noticed that we use hoops with row covers on them in our garden. Now, we've probably been using them here for, I'm guessing, 13, 14 years. This is the first place we've ever used the bigger covers like this. These are just pieces of PVC pipe, and when we started, these PVC pipes were just straight pieces. But when you flex them and leave them in the sun for a year or so, they stay as hoops, so they don't ever unhoop anymore. Henry's going to be taking down some behind me here because we do store them for the winter time. This was a new system, a slightly new system that we used this year. Starting about 4 years ago, we noticed that there was a real increase in the violence of the weather here in the summertime. Now, we've always been a high wind area, but usually we would put the hoops in place and we would just use a few rocks around the edges, and that was enough to keep everything in place. And starting about 4 years ago, we started getting way more dust devils, and dust devils, though, if you're someplace where the weather doesn't get really violent, it's not a big deal. They just throw up a little dust. But around here, they can be basically the equivalent of a small tornado. And they can do quite a bit of damage. They could just pick up this entire thing and throw it someplace. We've seen pieces of lawn furniture, not some piece of plastic junk, but really good solid lawn furniture, thrown the entire length of the house and just barely miss a window before. So we had to come up with a new solution. And we've tried a couple of different things. A couple of years ago, we tried using more of a regular structure as if we were building a hoop house, where we put a piece of PVC across the top as a ridge beam, and then we used zip ties to clamp it all together. Now, that worked for a while, but we found that the zip ties were breaking, even if we got the UV resistant ones. I had this idea and I ran it past Henry and he said, let's do it. So what I did was I used some rope. Part of it was to provide a little structure to help keep the actual hoops kind of where they are, but it was also just plain to hold it down. If you look at the ends of our beds here, you'll see that we have stacks of cement blocks, and each stack of cement blocks is at least 2 cement blocks high. These ropes are attached to them, so I actually looped it into the cement blocks, and it's looped into both, not just the top one, and then it goes down each hoop, and each hoop has a loop. Actually, it's a slip knot at the hoop, so it provides structure to the entire thing, and it worked. We did not have these things coming flying out. Now, they did raise a couple of times when we had really severe weather, but it was okay. It was easy enough to come push the hoops down later. So this was definitely a success this year, and we will be using that technique again. In a lot of places in the United States, you'll see commercial growers using either high tunnels, which are usually taller, or something like this, or something even lower. I have actually some low metal hoops that I bought years ago that only stand about that high. And those are great for covering, say, greens or something like that, that I just want to physically provide a barrier for. And I have done that before with cabbage and pak choi and some of the other oriental greens. But this is sort of a mandate here. It provides shade, and even more important than shade is it dramatically reduces evaporation from the beds. The plants don't use as much moisture because they're not constantly getting banged around by the wind. It really cuts down. It probably reduces our water use by 1/4. And that's a big deal for us because if you follow us, we're off-grid and we're on water haul here. There are virtually no wells in our area except for the commercial wells that belong to the towns. You know, we pay for water in 2,000-gallon batches, and that price of that water is not going down, just like everything else is not going down. So we have to plan ahead. We have to make sure we have enough water on hand at all times. I think it's 7,000 gallons. If it's wrong, I'll have him put it on the on the screen. Anyway, we have like 7,000 gallons worth of water storage here. And during the summertime, we try and keep it filled all the way, all the time, pretty much, because that way, if we were to get rain, which we did not this summer, we would not have to deal with the roads getting so muddy that we couldn't drive a truck in here. So that's basically the whole plan here. We use these pieces of PVC. As Henry pulls them out, you can see that they still have a definite U shape to them. We just stick them down into, this is not in general anchor to anything, it's just stuck down in the holes of the cement blocks. Then we have ropes tying the center, providing a center line, and I actually use a combination of things to hold the row covers on here. I buy row cover, they drop ship it to the town here, and you get it in giant rolls. It's a lot cheaper that way. It's kind of an investment when you do it. It's a couple $100, but I want to say that roll of row cover lasted me probably 8 years, maybe longer. And we've had most of these beds most of that time. So that's a lot of reuse. And sometimes I can actually reuse parts of it. This year was a bit worse in terms of tearing the row covers than usual. Sometimes you just, you know, you have to consider it as a disposable item. You have two things here that I actually use to hold the row covers in place. Obviously rocks around the edges, but that doesn't count. That's kind of just extra. I use clamps. Most of these are old clamps that we just had around. Some of them are newer that we bought from Harbor Freight. I usually watch for them on sale someplace. And you just literally clamp the stuff on like that. These are also available from places like Johnny's, and they're designed for use with row covers on PVC, and you just simply have to make sure that the size of your PVC and the size of your clamp are compatible. And all you do is you have your row cover on there and you slip this on. It's a little hard to get off, but that's good because it doesn't go flying off. Sometimes I use a screwdriver to get them off at the end of the season, or if I'm moving things around, but I'll at least put 1 or 2 at the top of each hoop, and sometimes farther down. I like to have these sides so that I can raise and lower them to give me easy access to the vegetables. When I'm home, I usually have them up, rolled up a little bit at least, sometimes a lot. When the plants first go in, I keep the sides down, and that provides a lot of coverage and security for the plants. It does not keep rodents and other things out. It sort of deters them a little bit. The bunnies don't usually come in if their sides are down, but rats and mice, they don't hesitate. They'll sneak right under it or chew a hole through it. It makes a big difference for us, and I'd like to recommend it to people. We were watching somebody in the Pacific Northwest the other day, and they lost all their row covers. They all blew away because they didn't nail them down, because they said, oh, we're not in a high wind area. Well, one of the things I think we all need to consider when we're looking at our gardens and our yards, and even if we're just a small-time gardener with a tiny little backyard, is the weather is getting more violent. And you have to kind of plan ahead. We all get caught sometimes, but they're professional growers, and they still blew it. If they're relying on this for income, they're going to starve to death. And I sure wouldn't want to rely on it this summer. It was a rough summer. But make sure you have rocks, make sure you have ways of clamping your stuff down, but it's really worth trying, really worth trying. And the nice thing with the PVC is it's pretty inexpensive.
If you look for PVC on sale, you can frequently buy this 3/4 inch PVC fairly cheaply, and it lasts a long, long time.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a piece break. We have gotten rid of some of the smaller stuff. We tried 1/2 inch to see if that would work. And the 1/2 inch didn't work well for us. I suppose you could use it if you were using shorter pieces, but we like a good size hoop that gives the plants plenty of room to expand inside and plenty of room for us to work inside, because you have to be able to get in there to take care of your plants.
And tomatoes can get some height on them.
Yeah.
Well, look, thanks very much for watching. We hope you really enjoyed this video. It was fun for both of us to be out here at the same time, with both of us in front of the camera instead of one of us behind.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of times I'm working on one project while he's working on another.
And when I'm working on one project, she's definitely working on another. So thanks very much for watching. If you like what we did on this crazy video, please hit the like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the bell for notifications.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Fancy meeting here.
Hey, let's go back inside.